What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Truck Parking Clubhouse. I'm your guy, Mike Lombard, aka at Lombard Trucking, everywhere on the internet. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. Happy Groundhog Day, by the way. Legendary American tradition that is Groundhog Day. One of the greatest things that's been going on. It's been the same groundhog for over 150 years. If you didn't know, Punxsutawney Phil has been around and with us for a long time, and he has predicted 6 more weeks of winter. But we'll see. That depends on where you're at in the country. And if it is 6 more weeks of winter, I hope you guys stay safe and you get yourselves to where you need to go quickly. If you haven't had a chance yet, this week's edition of Taillights has dropped into your inbox, covering some crazy stuff. We got some bold aspirations from a DOT insider who's looking to add 40,000 truck parking spots in 3 years. So go check out some of his goals and aspirations in there and how he'd like to do it, taking some of the models of public-private ownership, kind of how they've done over in the UK and parts of Europe, and also covering some new changes to Florida's driver license tests, which is going to affect this Friday, along with some survey codes in there as well, and some great throwbacks, some great motivation in there for you guys to stay healthy and locked in. But other than that, let's get our week rolling strong with the Clubhouse. Going to bring on one of our amazing partners, Miss Sara herself. Good evening. How are we doing, Sara?
Good evening, Mike. We're doing pretty good. Just hanging out over here around Atlanta at the receivers right now, trying to get unloaded.
Awesome. So you're still at a receiver right now. How long have you been there?
I have been here since 5 Well, actually, I got here around 4 o'clock, but I've been in the door since 4:30. And you know how it goes at some of these places. It takes forever, and of course, it's Atlanta. And so yeah.
That's how it goes at some of those shippers and receivers. So we're going on 4 hours there, which gives us plenty of time to do some riffing before
Yes.
the green light comes on.
Right. Well, they said they'd give me a phone call, which is usually how it goes anytime there's a lumper. They say it's a text or a phone call. And, it just a hurry up and wait game. If you're late, you're in trouble. But as soon as you get here, you gotta wait. Um, I was seeing some of the guys around here. They've been here for quite some time. And Atlanta area is a bad area to be whenever it gets late at night. So I already like checked out my truck parking for the evening as well, so that way I know where I'm going whenever I do leave here.
Yeah, actually, let's take care of that now. So you're at this receiver for a while. It's 8:30. Over past 8:30 in Georgia. Where are you going to park after you leave your receiver tonight?
And so I found a nice little spot up in Brazelton, and I knew I was coming here, knowing how Atlanta is, and I have a habit of always checking the reviews of the receivers whenever I'm going there. Um, I knew coming into this that this was probably going to be a long, drawn out process. I was hoping it wouldn't be, but chances were it was going to be like that. So I went ahead and checked around to see what was going to be close by to me, and I found a place about 11 miles from where I'm actually at. And I'm at Dacula, Georgia, is where I'm at. But I found a nice truck parking spot over in Brazelton, and I went ahead and booked it right away because I come to the Atlanta suburbs quite often, and I already know that once the sun starts going down in this area, there is no parking. And as a female, I don't park on the shoulders. I just don't. I like to be in a safe spot. So, and knowing where I'm going to park is highly important to me. So yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. So you found a spot 11 miles from you. This is on the Truck Parking Club app. You had found this location.
Yes, absolutely. It absolutely was. I mean, it's become a little habit of mine. If I'm going into an area and I know that I'm going to be delivering, anytime after dark, um, you know, it, I look on the Truck Parking Club app to see what's close to me. And I try to get that set up before I even get close to the area. Um, Especially whenever I have an appointment. It just makes it makes sense for me because I don't like the stress of worrying and the anxiety of where am I going to park? Am I going to be able to find a spot? Is there going to be any room at the truck stop? And considering that, I've had my truck hit 3 different times at a truck stop, I really don't like even parking at truck stops. So yeah, it's a habit for me now. And just to go ahead and look in the app, see what's around, see what's available to me, and just go ahead and reserve it. Especially if I'm just a couple hours out from being at my receiver, it just makes more sense to me.
Awesome. No, I'm glad it's coming in handy for you, and I can't wait to deep dive more. I want to shift gears a little bit though. I'd love to hear how did you get into the trucking industry? Like, let's walk us up to present day, so to speak. What got you into trucking?
Well, what really got me into trucking, I mean, it's a couple of different things. I always wanted to be a trucker whenever I was really young. I could remember, going with my uncle Dubby, and he worked for a company called Campbell's 66, had a big camel on the side of their trailers, and it was an old cab over Mac, and I just the memories that I have of being in that truck with him, and he'd have a 5-gallon bucket in between the seats, and he would tell me, "That's so that way you don't bounce out of the truck." And just being able to go with him in the truck, it really made me want to be just like my uncle and to be a truck driver. So I had that exposure really young, and whenever I say, young, I mean 5, 6, 7 years old, going with him for a couple hours at a time. Like that was just, oh, it was everything to me. And then, as I grew up, I didn't really stay on the right track as a younger person. And I did share with you, I am in recovery. And so I was able to use um, different programs that were available to me. And I actually got my CDL in South Florida. So I know that, like, the taillights issue that I just read, it really hit with me because I understood it completely and it made a lot of sense. Um, but I used vocational rehabilitation to help me pay to go to a third party school to get my CDL. And I was really, I mean, some divine timing, I feel like, because I got my CDL in March 5th of 2020. And March 16th of 2020, my office where I'd been working for a couple of years down because of the pandemic. And March 25th, I got into this truck for the company that I work for, who I've been with ever since. I started out with them as a company driver, and I won't lie, the first couple months were really rough. A few times I crawled up into my bunk and I just cried my eyes out because this was so much tougher than I thought it was going to be. And I stuck with it. And then within like 6 months to a year, I was just so in love with it that I had to get my own truck. And I became an owner operator about 2 years after I started driving. And I currently, own my own truck and still work for the same company and that I originally, sorry, the guy was pulling out beside me, got a little close there. um, yeah. So I've just been with the same company that I started driving for as a company driver. And I love it. I do love it. Um, I love everything about it most of the time, but there's a lot to it, a lot more to being an owner operator than I ever anticipated. But I do love I love my truck and I love driving, so I just don't know.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that story. Quite the little divine intervention there with the COVID anomaly happening. You got your CDL in prime time for you to actually start driving. You said those first couple months were kind of rough, but then you really loved it. What do you love the most about the trucking industry? You think what made you really like? Was there like an aha moment where you're like, man, this is it. This is it. I'm all about it.
Well, I think for me, I'm the type of person, I'm okay being in here by myself and with myself. And I have always driven. Even whenever I got my first cars, I drove so much that the cars would just end up dying because I drove them forever. Um, but for me, it's just being behind the wheel and driving and everything that I get to see. And for me, with being a recovering addict and having lived through everything that I lived through and having the criminal record and things like that, to be able to be in this truck, and I own this truck and nobody can take this from me. And being able to have a business and be a female owner operator, whenever I was told I would never be able to do anything like this. I was told that you won't get your license, you can't own a business. Trying to find companies that would employ me and working for just a disgusting pittance of an amount of money that wouldn't even take care of any bills. So me doing this and becoming an owner operator, it was more of, I really feel like it was just me not taking, what everybody said I should get. Like, I'm not good with being told no. I just am not good with being told no, and you can't. And so for me, this and getting my foot in the door and having somebody take a chance on me, I had to just show everybody and myself especially, that I could do this. I could do something better and I could, have a life well beyond my wildest dreams. And that I could actually provide not just for me, but for my family as well. Um, you know, with me being an owner operator, I've had the ability to actually see more of my family that for a good 20-year chunk I was dead to them, like I was in a completely different lifestyle. So I didn't have any communication with my friends and family, even my own son. And, becoming a driver and being in this industry has given me that freedom and that ability to be able to go and see family members that previously I hadn't seen. It I can decide that, hey, I want to go to my mom's house, find a load to my mom's house, spend a weekend with her. And, for her, that means more than anything else in the world that I just show up for a random weekend to spend with her. And if I wasn't driving and as an owner operator, I wouldn't be able to do that. So, there's a lot to it, I guess.
No, that's good. And I really appreciate you
Sorry, my
sharing.
puppy is back here whining because she knows I'm talking to somebody.
No, no worries. I can't hear the dog at all. So it's even if we did, the furry pets are always welcome. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your testimony on that because it's especially important because I think we need to really, people in general, sometimes don't understand the reality. Again, like there's a reason why we're doing the clubhouse, and it is very much so to further, and it's one of my personal goals to humanize this industry more as it has become, it's overwhelming with technology. It's overwhelming with, I mean, the supply chain is huge. It's massive. And I think and it's happening all around us. And there's so many different types of people who are driving and doing the clubhouse and working with drivers such as yourself kind of shows that reality and humanizes just who is just who and is who is some of the best behind the wheel. I really take pride in all the people that we partner with and all the drivers that we work together with in helping drivers with parking and as we add more parking. And so you sharing a kind of a real raw and vulnerable story on your testimony into it and how it's benefited you. By the way, you're sharing some very good life advice for, there could be a listener out there, whether they be on Instagram or LinkedIn or what have you, who I believe, and this has the ability to reach a few people, but even if it hits one person, who there's somebody right now who's being told no, there's somebody now who's being told they cannot, who's being told, somebody is trying to set limits for other people. And as I always, as I tell people, that I do some personal training for, that limits only exist in our minds. Nobody can set limits for you, no matter what. The only, it's completely irrational to think that anybody can set limits. So I appreciate you coming on. Kind of going forward from it, we brushed on how you set yourself up with some truck parking after this delivery. I've got to ask you. So when was the first time you had heard about Truck Parking Club?
Okay. So oddly enough, like the very, very first time that I recall hearing or seeing Truck Parking Club. I used to team drive with my husband, and we live up by Cleveland, Tennessee. So we go up and down 75 all the time. And one day I was just, he was driving and we're almost home, and so everybody's excited, and we're going right by Ringgold, and I see Truck Parking Club right there, and it was like a big banner, and it's right by the clubhouse, and I didn't know at the time that this was the clubhouse. And I think this was at least 2 years ago. And I was like, oh well, that's interesting. And that was the very first time like I had heard Truck Parking Club. And then I started seeing a couple things. I think it was on TikTok, because I don't do the Instagram, but it was on TikTok. I saw this crazy guy. It wasn't you, it was another guy. And he was talking about, we've got X amount of spots here. And I was like, okay. And so then I started looking at the app. And at that time, we really didn't need parking because we were able to keep our truck rolling, and we did it on a 12-12 cycle. So the truck was always with a fresh driver. And, if we did have to park, it was usually not for very long. Um, but I started kind of looking at the app a little bit, especially whenever we were going out west, because sometimes in Arizona and New Mexico, we would be down in the city areas, and there's not very good parking over in like Phoenix and stuff like that. So that was like one of the first times I used it, was down there in Arizona for us. And as this past year, last year, I started driving solo. And so I really started utilizing the app more and more. And yeah, down in Baton Rouge and some of these areas that I know personally, I don't like going to those truck stops because of people knocking on my doors, or regrettably, I've had somebody like steal straps off the back of my catwalk, things like that. So, that's what really got me using it too, was being solo. But yeah, the first time that I recall seeing it was driving past the clubhouse right there on 75 with the big banner. It was cool.
Yeah, it's funny to kind of think about how even with all the technology that we have and advertisements and social media, we're in the attention war. Billboards still remain have a level of royalty
Can you hear
when
me?
it
Okay.
comes to advertising. Yes, I can still hear you. My chance, I think there's still a little bit of a delay, but no, I can hear you all right as long as you can also hear me. But billboards still reign supreme when it comes to advertisement in any stretch of the way. And I can attest to that. I remember the first time I drove across South Dakota, you see signs for Wall Drug in South Dakota, for Wall Drug Store, and you will see, and it's nonstop. Same thing with Amarillo. You see billboards for so long for the Big Texan, the 72-ounce steak challenge, so much so. And this is in 2016, and in both times I stopped at the Big Texan and I stopped at Wall Drug. That's where I got my cowboy boots. So billboards do in fact still work as a heavy point of advertising. So I'm glad you did. What is there any locations that you booked with us that stick out? What yeah, any recent I know you're staying at one of our locations tonight, but any
Hmm.
places you've been to recently that have came in clutch for you?
So like there's been two spots. The one that's over there on Valentine Parkway. And I can't remember the exact name of it. I've got it saved in my app. I got the little heart. I'm able to favorite it, but it's right on 85, headed more towards Greenville. And it was late at night. I had stopped at the rest area over there at the state line of Alabama and Georgia, and I'd actually had a gentleman basically try to bully me and threaten to hit my truck and a couple other things. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm just trying. I had to call the police, like, be close under around, a really good green area. And, because of that, like I ended up saying, no, I'm going to drive. I'm going to get to the other side of Atlanta. And, I was able to find, like, I think they had like two spots left and it was a beautiful area. And it was on Valentine Parkway. And then probably one of the nicer spots that I have found is actually in Cocoa Beach, um, right off of um, right off of 95. And the owner of that facility, like, they put this special touch on it. Like, I noticed a lot of these places are really trying to cater to the driver. And this facility in particular, like, not only were there free showers, but there was washer machines for you to use, a truck wash, security, and the place is lit up like a football field. I mean, like it was amazing. And that owner, because the owner there, he has such a special touch. Like if you book with him, like he sends you a message saying, hey, here's my phone number, call me whenever you get here, I will guide you into your spot. So that way, you go right in, and he it just chauffeurs you right into your spot. So that way you can just, pull straight in. And that was probably one of the really nicer spots that I'd been to. But I've even found a nice spot close to my house, um, over there right off of 75. That, it's nice because whenever I get a load that's close to home and I can park my truck safely close by my house, so that way I can still, have the weekend at home with my family. that's a great thing. You know, and even they are like trying to provide amenities to us drivers because they want us there. They want us to come and have a safe place to park and, you know, get a shower or be able to heat up a meal, you know, and these are things that, you know, that it's just a nice touch that they provide to us. And you know, it feels really nice, some of these locations that I have been to, and having interactions with, you know, the property owner or you know, the caretaker, whoever it may be, that you know, I end up speaking with, that they truly want us to be there. They do not act like we are, you know, unfortunately, this happens to happen quite often. Truck drivers at, you know, truck stops and stuff are treated disrespectfully or unkindly. You know, like we're, you know, it just being putting people out by being there. And that sucks. But what I've noticed with the truck parking club locations is that these people really want us there, and it's nice to be respected and appreciated, because really we're out here just trying to make a living, to take care of our families and do it safely. And all we really want at the end of the day is maybe a nice warm shower and a safe place to park our rigs, so that way we can get a good night's sleep. You know, I mean, personally, that's what I want. But you know, so that's what I've noticed the most, and those are the places. Sorry, I was rambling.
No, that's awesome, and I appreciate you sharing kind of your experience with some of those locations. What's great is as we continue to expand the network, and this is for anybody listening, as we continue to expand the network, and as we grow and develop our relationships with our property members, that's what's happening. Is our property members are not only coming in and seeing that truck parking is an issue for drivers nationwide. They do want the drivers to come park at their locations, and they're seeing and believing and kind of learning about what drivers need. That when it comes to truck parking in this country, first it's getting the country to realize that there's a problem, and there's a lot of people outside of the industry in the real estate world who, whether they operate self-storage facilities or independent truck lots, or if they have property that can fit truck parking. So getting them to realize that there's a problem is like step one. Step two is obviously teaching our property members, hey, you could be a part of solving that problem. And then three is, hey, this is also this is what drivers kind of are looking for and need if you want them to come park at your locations. And what we've been seeing as time has been going on, and trucks have been coming in because they realize it's a problem, is our properties are adapting and trying to do their best to add amenities to help drivers out to make it more. I do just want to field couple questions that we got in on the live stream. A gentleman was asking about RV parking, which do want to bring that out there. So we don't specifically advertise to RVs, and on the Truck Parking Club app, you are not. If you drive an RV, it's kind of difficult to kind of book an RV on there with the data you have to put in there. However, what I will say is we do partner with properties that also happen to be boat and RV storage places, which I believe one of the locations you had stopped at in Florida operates as a boat and RV storage place, but they have a certain area designated for truck parking. So specifically to trucks and RVs, we don't market to them. We're tied to trucks, but some of our property members are able to. Some of our property members do happen to be RV and boat storage. And big shout out to our man Sean, tapping the live stream, talking about finding parking. He's big on the mental health front. I know, Sarah, you had touched in on that for reducing stress and removing that stress. There is definitely a value token to having peace of mind when it comes to parking, when it comes to those last 3 hours of your day, knowing exactly where you're going to go, that it's guaranteed it is going to be there. And it's not maybe an everyday thing, because sometimes you know your routes, you know your lanes, you know where you're going to park, but there's certain days where you might not. And so being able to know, if I'm going to Atlanta, or if I'm going to Chicago, you know what, instead of playing, whack-a-mole or play guess where I'm going to park tonight, you can kind of have yourself set up for it. And then yes, to Aurelius bobtails park well as well. Yes, we do have locations that are specifically for bobtails and box trucks as well. Kind of bringing it towards the end. We talked about, Sarah, you mentioned what you love about the trucking industry. I would love to hear about, what's, this industry. We know truck parking is an issue, but what's one problem in the industry you wish that, you think the industry needs to work on, or what's one problem you wish you can fix right now?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things that I wish that I don't. To me, I think one of the biggest problems is the English language proficiency. And being that the safety concerns that provides causes, but I feel like it is being addressed and things are moving in a direction. Truck parking, you can't get over that one right there is a huge deal. And the fact that Truck Parking Club has over 4,000 different sites. It helps, but there's so much more that needs to be done. And I feel like you know I- there's I don't know. For me, I can't say 100% sure what I would just wave my magic wand and change immediately. Um, maybe some freight rates. Being that I'm an owner operator, some freight rates, and that would be like a big thing for me. Um, you know, I- yeah, that would be a big thing for me. And I think, some of the schooling that people that have to take nowadays, like I had to take 120 hours of classes and have, I think I had to have like 60 hours behind the wheel before I could actually test out and get my license and do the testing through a third party facility. Um, I think there should be, a little bit more of, you know, eh, some checks and balances whenever it comes to people just being able to get their CDLs. Because what I have noticed out here is that just because somebody has a CDL doesn't necessarily mean they need to be driving this big truck. I would definitely, that would be something that I would want to address is, safe driving, safe driving.
Absolutely. So we've got, yeah, a little bit, we've addressed parking, a little bit of freight rates, the English language proficiency. No, it's good. Driver concerns are important. That's why we have you guys come on here to humanize those issues. I mean, again, telling driver stories and what drivers' opinions are what matters, and drivers' voices matter too. We do the clubhouse to enhance and further bring out drivers' voices. One last question for you before we sign off for the evening is if somebody was, whether they're in CDL school or thinking about getting their CDL, if you can give somebody who wants to enter the industry or a brand new driver one piece of advice, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. Don't give up. You know, Giving up, it's easy to give up. It's really easy to give up, and there are so many things, especially when it comes to backing up, that can be difficult, and it takes time to learn. Nobody expects somebody to get into these one of these trucks and know how to back it into a dock immediately. It takes time. Still have trouble sometimes, getting it into some docks. And I've got 6 years under my belt. Um, you know, and go slow. Take your time. Don't let anybody rush you. You let somebody rush you, then you can have an accident. I don't let people rush me. And if they don't like that, that's too bad because this is a big truck and I don't want to break it. I don't want to. I don't want to pay for damages because anytime I go to the mechanic, it's always a big bill. And so I am a firm believer in just take your time and don't give up.
That's good. We could stick that right on a t-shirt, honestly. That's a great one. Yeah, take your time, don't give up, and take your time. Well, Sarah, number one, I want to appreciate you for coming on the Clubhouse tonight. Won't be the last time as well. Would love to bring, always want to bring you guys back on a rotation to fill us in on where you've been parking, talk about some industry issues, and just do some general trucking talk. And maybe we'll get it, there's some other ladies you partner with. I'd love to get a nice roundtable going, but definitely wanted to thank you for coming out. And to everybody else who tuned in to the Clubhouse. Again, we're here right around 7:30ish p.m. Central Time every Monday to do, to talk some trucking. And if you guys, and again, so we partner with individuals like Sarah because she is somebody who wants to help leave this industry better than we found it, which is exactly what we do at Truck Parking Club. We help truckers save time and fuel by being able to instantly reserve truck parking nationwide. So if you need truck parking tonight, you can go to truckparkingclub.com, use that promo code EVOLVE20. That's all lowercase. Evolve20 will get you $20 off a booking. With that, guys, we'll see you next week. Stay safe, don't give up, and hammer down.